officers!
Police officers! Bum, 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 ba, da, da, bum, ba. It's a cool podcast!
That doesn't even sound like the Incredibles theme.
Yeah, that is it. Podcast. Da-da-da-da-da. That's good, right?
People like that.
That's something, right? That's a funny thing, right?
That's a thing that people like. People like
anyway,
that.
my name's Jackson McMurray.
My name is, Senor Incredible.
Monsieur.
I said Senor. But then I didn't know what Incredible was in Spanish.
Don't sing right now because there's other music playing over it.
What? No, why is that a problem? Why is there a problem with that?
So, Adeline.
Yes, Jackson.
This is the finale of No Nerds Allowed Phase 1.
Yes.
This is the final episode before we move on into bold new territory.
Which is, honestly, the exact same territory.
Mostly the same. Not all the way. It's going to be a different YouTube channel. And I'm going to have to talk to people more to get guests on.
Gonna have to communicate with people.
Because for some reason, everything's my responsibility.
None of my friends are famous, Jackson.
But here's what I'm gonna do right up top, so it doesn't get lost 45 minutes deep into us talking about Rise of Skywalker spoilers.
Yeah,
I want you guys to email us. I want you guys to get at us at our Twitter. It's at NoNerdsPod on Twitter and NoNerdsPod@gmail.com, because I want to know what you want to see in Phase 2 or what you don't want to see in Phase 2.
Maybe more what you don't want to see.
Yeah. If you're going to write in and be like, I think Adeline sucks and Adeline shouldn't be on the show anymore, that's helpful feedback.
Yeah.
But I do want to know, do you not like trivia time? What could we do that's different in Phase 2? What would you like to see us do?
Trivia time is the only segment on the show that actually functions as a segment.
What else do we even have?
Nothing.
We have Rise of Skywalker spoilers.
We do have Rise of Skywalker spoilers.
Basically a segment at this point. And also, I'm going to put on our Twitter a poll to see if people want us to do the Star Wars movies in release order or in chronological order. I'm going to put that on the Twitter as soon as this episode goes up, so you can go right then and vote on that, because I want to know what y'all think. Because I have also been notoriously bad about doing things on social media I say I'm going to do on the podcast.
Yeah.
Because I forget about it between then and now. And then whenever I listen back to an old episode and I'm like, oh, hey, check out our Twitter right now because we'll have a poll or something, I'm always like, oh, fuck, I did not do that. That did not ever come to pass.
Especially because now you're getting, graded on it for a class.
Right. Well, we're kind of at the end of that. It doesn't really matter. But the Twitter's still good. Twitter's still good. Still follow our Twitter. Our Twitter is still cool. But if you don't have to follow our Facebook page anymore, I'm not going to update that motherfucker ever again. Let's be real.
Who the fuck uses Facebook? That's not
nobody.
An old lady.
You want to know how I know that? It's because I have got 0 engagements from anybody on our Facebook page the whole time I've been
it's
running
because nobody's on Facebook. People say they're on Facebook, but really it's just your mom, and that's it.
Yeah, nobody's on Facebook. So yeah, anyway, as I was saying, email us, let us know what movies you want, what you want us to do, pitch us segment ideas, I don't know, give us some content. Tell us you don't like Adeline, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, do you want to be the third McMurray sibling? Sign up here today.
We should have an open casting call.
For our third sibling.
Yeah.
God, I don't want to be the middle child.
What if they're older, though?
Are they 54? How old are they?
If they're older than you, then you won't be the middle child.
Fine.
You'll be the youngest.
Well, okay, are we accepting middle child applications, or are we accepting youngest sibling applications?
So you're saying that the only people we should accept are people between the ages of 19 and 22?
Yes.
Okay.
To keep the core demographic in place.
All right, fair enough. Is that our core demographic? I don't know. We have like 8 listeners, and I think they're all around that age.
Yeah, so.
Anyway, so this week, Adeline, for the finale of No Nerds Allowed Phase 1, we did watch The Incredibles.
Oh. I watched The Amazings. Is that something different?
Adeline, I'm really upset about the amount of, like, just airtime that joke took.
It didn't take that much, in my defense.
Yeah, I know it didn't.
It's taking up a lot more
Even
now, but
still,
that's your
too
fault.
much. Okay. This is gonna be the tentative last of our Pixar playthrough. Just because I feel like we're getting a little worn out on it, and we kind of only want to do one franchise at a time right now, I feel like.
Well, and it's just because, I mean, when we want to talk about a Pixar movie, I will have stuff to say, but when it's just like we're watching Bug's Life, it's like, Bug's Life is good. Do you want to talk about Alien for 3 hours? And that's just how it goes.
Right.
And so, like, when we want to do a Pixar film, we'll do a Pixar film, instead of feeling the obligation to do a Pixar film.
Except for next week when we are doing Onward, so
but that's because
we will
it's
do another
new
Pixar
and
film.
shiny and special.
Right. So this is one of my favorite movies ever in history.
Yes.
This is the I guess 5th Pixar movie. But I'm fascinated by this movie because it's the first Pixar movie to just have people in it and just be about folks.
People. Yeah.
Because you can, I don't know, it's fascinating because you can, like, see them building up to it, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Like, Toy Story, it's like there are some people in it, but it's not about them. It's about these plastic
it's not
toys.
Good, and we don't really want you to look at them.
Right.
We kind of want you to ignore them.
Bug's Life is no people at all. Toy Story 2 is more people. Or no, this is the 6th movie. Finding Nemo is the 5th one. Right?
God, you look like an idiot right now. You look so stupid.
Wait. Toy Story, Bug's Life, Toy Story 2. What am I forgetting? Monsters, Inc., Finding Nemo, Incredibles. Right?
Yes.
We did podcasts on all of them, and I still can't remember.
God, you look so stupid. Look how stupid you look.
But then Monsters, Inc. has got a person.
Yes.
And then...
And she looks
Finding
great.
Nemo has no people.
No, it's got the dentist and the little girl.
Oh, right. Oh, that's right. Yeah, because there are plenty of people, and they, like, serve a prominent narrative function. Yeah.
Yeah.
But apparently the thing that sort of empowered them to take on this story, the story always is that the thing that... Sorry, I'm repeating myself. They came up with a program that could sort of procedurally generate people. And that was the thing. They were like, oh, we want to do this superhero story that Brad Bird keeps pitching to us.
That Brad Bird just won't shut the fuck up about.
Right. But they're like, it deals with so many different people, and there are so many, like, crowd scenes and, like, times where you have to just talk to extras or whatever. Mm-hmm. And the thing that finally, like, gave them the confidence to actually go with it was they were like, oh, we built this software that's just, like, between a certain data set, it'll make like 100 people that look like Pixar people that we could put in a crowd and just like seat them in. And you know, it's like one of 3 head shapes and one of 3 nose types and one of 3 eyebrow types or whatever, but just like randomly spun and done automatically. Which I think is super fascinating. Hearing about like the animation progress in these like earlier days of Pixar, I think is one of my favorite things to read about.
I know, where they're like this big prestigious animation company, and they're just like, we don't know what the fuck we're doing. Does this work? Oh, hell yeah, this works. Let's do that.
And so I've been watching this movie since I was a very young child.
Me also.
I loved this movie growing up. And it's tough for me, even still today. It is like one of my favorite movies of all time, and I am so like it's one of those movies that just I like feel it in my gut whenever it's doing anything, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to figure out if that's really just because it's the best fucking movie ever made.
Yeah.
Or if it's just because I liked it so much as a kid. And in my defense, I watched, you know, probably like Finding Nemo and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory about as many times.
Just
and I
as
don't
many
feel that way
times.
about those movies. But I do like them still. I don't know.
But I don't look at Tim Burton's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and go, God, this is the best
God,
film ever
like,
made.
This is what this is all about. What about you, Adeline? What do you think?
I think this is one of the this is our Castle in the Sky for like this is the childhood movie. Like
Right.
oh god, so many road trips. We watched this movie. But like
Yeah.
and because it's not early animation. It's just not modern animation. Like, what do you call
Right.
that? Like, it's not early animation. It's just not the crazy animation that we have now, where it
Right.
still looks really, really good, but it's so tactile that I have so many, like, tactile memories. Like, when they, like, fall in the water and their hair is, like, all wet. Like, I don't know why that's
Right.
such, like, a vivid memory in my head, but it is.
So, okay. I feel like I guess it's not necessarily a new criticism, but for me, at least personally, engaging with that much more, like, film criticism online and talking to people about movies more, there's one thing about The Incredibles when it comes to people criticizing it that comes up over and over and over again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is that on the at least according to some people, it feels like this, like, Republican libertarian fantasy where they're, like, complaining about, like, participation trophies and how, like, people who are cool are being told not to be cool, and, like, the unwashed masses should know their place, and the supers who are the elite bourgeoisie deserve their place because that's who they are, you know? Which is a not insubstantial complaint about it, I don't think. I think this movie is doing a lot of different things, and sometimes it's hard to parse out exactly what it's trying to say.
Yeah, but I don't think that they're equating having superpowers to being rich, because the Pars are a very middle-class family, and we are shown that a lot. Like, just because Bob has, like, this job that he hates, and he's got, like, a tiny car, and they've got, like, a nice house, and they've got, like, 4 kids. Like, they're not... I don't know, if they were, like, super rich, and then they were like, oh, why can't we be so cool? Then I would see that as, like, that is the meaning of the movie. But because it's about the fact that they have these special abilities, it kind of, that metaphor falls apart in being a literal metaphor for, like, how
Right.
capitalism is great, you know?
But here's what I would say, is that it's about people having what makes them special taken away from them by the government.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't really, at least on a one-to-one literal basis, that doesn't equate to anything else besides having a lot of money, you know?
Well,
it's
but,
the
I
only
mean,
thing
that's
like
what-
that can be taken from you.
But I mean, that's what X-Men is kind of, and that's a story about racism with no black people in it. So, I mean, like,
Right.
it's the same kind of thing. I think it's more about government control over, like, things than it is about capitalism. I don't know. I don't read it as this capitalistic, like, dreamscape. And I've read Atlas Shrugged. I know what a capitalistic dreamscape looks like.
Right.
And and I think it is because it's looking at it through the lens of superpowers, and that is a conversation that we've had about superpowers in the past with, like, how do we regulate people with superpowers? So it doesn't seem like, I don't know, I feel like that metaphor is definitely there, and you can read it like that, but I don't think that was what they were trying to say, especially because this is the same company that made Bug's Life, which I think is literally just Marx's manifesto, but with ants in it, so...
Right. Well, because here's my take. Basically, I think what this movie's putting forward is that just, like, some people are super cool, and they should be allowed to be that way. Mostly because that's what all of Brad Bird's movies are about, because clearly he thinks of himself as this misunderstood genius.
Yeah, because Brad Bird loves nobody, like he loves Brad Bird.
Yeah, like, literally, it's one of those things that once you pointed out, like, I haven't seen Iron Giant, but, like, every Brad Bird movie is about this person who's really fucking good at their job and is this incredible creative genius, and there's somebody, whether it's the government or his family or whatever, that's telling him that he shouldn't do that, you know?
Yeah.
And, like, that's just, it's whether it's Mission Impossible or it's Ratatouille or it's The Incredibles, like, it's always about someone being told they shouldn't do the thing that they're good at.
Yeah, I mean, I choose to read it as being don't sell yourself short, or don't stop doing what you love just because other people don't like it. Like, be yourself, unafraid of what other people think.
Right.
Is, I think, what the movie's trying to say.
Right. But I think it's a little bit more nuanced than just that, like, oh, these superpower people are so cool, we shouldn't restrict them. Mm-hmm. It's because I think, in a way, sort of the original sin of this movie is Bob being mean to Buddy at the beginning. Mm-hmm. And that is, I think the movie wants us to believe that Buddy is also exceptional, you know? Mm-hmm. He has every bit the power and the ability to be a super person just like anybody else in this story. But because Bob is mean to him, Bob, like, shoves him down and restricts him, super bad things happen. Mm-hmm. Like, I think sort of the moral is just that you should let people who want to do something and want to be better than they are engage with that and be that, rather than trying to make a level playing field for everybody by pushing people down. I think ideologically it has a lot in common with... Did you ever read Harrison Bergeron?
I don't think so.
So it's this... what's the name of the guy who wrote Fahrenheit 450? Or not Fahrenheit, Slaughterhouse 5. Kurt Vonnegut.
Yeah.
It's this Kurt Vonnegut short story where basically it's like this world where everybody has these, like, necklaces on that, like, inhibit their natural talents or mm-hmm. whatever. And it's this weird sort of story, and it's also, like, it kind of gets crazy and surreal at the end.
Yeah, because it's like, one of those old stories that's, like, weirdly about capitalism, and you're like, all right, we're doing this now.
I don't even think it's about money. It's more about, like, just... So, like, everybody has these necklaces on, like, collars that, like, inhibit their natural ability, and they talk about, like, watching a ballet on TV, and all the ballerinas just suck because they're getting their talents inhibited, so everybody can meet the, like, lowest common denominator of who is good at ballet, you know? Mm-hmm. But then one person fucking rips off their collar and turns into this Super Saiyan super being and, like, floats up to the ceiling and... like, blows everybody's mind. Anyway, it's a good short story. I like it a lot.
Despite what I've just said.
But no, not despite it. I like that about it. The things I said are all cool, I think.
I like that part.
But it's sort of just this idea that, like, we don't need to all be at the lowest common denominator for everything, you know? Mm-hmm. And I think... you know, the people that are exceptional in the world, in terms of, like, this metaphor it's putting forward, I don't think it directly relates to privilege. I think it relates to just to people who have talent, you know?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you know, I think in real life, if we were having this conversation in reality, you wouldn't be able to remove that from privilege, because a lot of times, like, talent comes from education and comes from having the means to practice and blah, 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 blah. But,
yes.
I think to hear Brad Bird tell it in this story of this is just like, it doesn't mean anybody, it just means that we should all be on level playing field. What?
To hear this male, straight, white, rich man tell you that.
Right.
Who's very successful.
Right. But who's very successful and somehow writes a whole bunch of movies about how angry he is, about how not successful he is still.
Yeah,
whatever.
So...
but just that we should all be on a level playing field so that the people who are exceptional can rise above, I guess. It sounds whack when you say it like that.
Yeah, it does sound whack, you're right.
but you get the vibe I'm talking about.
I just see this as a superhero movie, and as a really, really good superhero movie. I didn't think about it as a socioeconomic criticism of reality.
But I mean, there's so much to read into in this movie. It's not just, I'm not being ridiculous when I bring up
you're not.
This
That's just
kind of
not.
thing.
I just don't like that version of it, so I would rather just think of it as a superhero movie, because there's a lot to read into of it like that, also, because it's incredible.
So, I mean, right at the beginning,
this movie, I'm interrupting you.
Okay, go ahead.
Is just so smart and so good at giving you information quickly and effectively. Like,
totally.
just... it does it so masterfully. Like, the beginning where they just, like, they start, and it's just, like, these interviews of all these superheroes. And you're like, oh, we have superheroes here. Oh, it's about them. Like, it just establishes the universe just, like, so quickly and hilariously and effectively. And it's just, it's so good. They do such a good job.
Right. No, the opening sequence of this movie, like, between the interviews and the actual opening sequence when he's, like, going to get married,
yeah.
I think are, like, literally, if I were teaching a class, I would show that to convey, like, effective and succinct exposition, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's familiarizing you with the world and with the characters and telling you everything you need to know in the context of, like, this extended action sequence that takes place across the entire city.
Yeah,
you know?
it's so good.
And they're never, like, obviously at the beginning they're just talking, but they're not even, when they're just talking at the beginning, they're not giving direct exposition, you know?
Yeah.
They're just saying, like, oh, you know, sometimes it gets, I'm really tired of being a superhero. It's like, I want things to, I wish I could take a break. It's like, oh, I love women. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love Frozo's bit at the beginning.
I know.
I don't know. It's just so funny that, like, one of the opening moments in this movie is just being like, no, wine them, dine them, 69 them, get out of there.
Smoke them if you got them.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think it's so funny.
Yeah.
Well,
and I love this reversal of characters that you get, where Bob at the beginning is like, I want to settle down and raise a family, and then you have Elastigirl who's like, no, I don't want to settle down, like, I want to keep doing this. And then when you get to their regular life, they've completely switched to what they want in their life. And it's just, totally. God, the characters are so good, man. They're so realistic. Really, I can't look at Mr. Incredible without seeing our dad, and that's my fault, but, like, God.
Right. No, I mean, it's fair.
Yeah.
But it's designed to be that way, you know? It's
Oh, yeah, definitely. You are supposed to see your family in The Incredibles, right. Absolutely.
Totally. And I love, I just wrote down the bit where they, like, meet up and they're like, oh, what are you doing later? And then, like, he's just fucking late to the wedding and she's just like, oh, he actually forgot that we...
Yeah.
I think that's so funny. But, like, also just the reversal where they play it as if they're, like, just meeting for the first time or whatever.
Yeah.
And then, like, it's revealed that it's like, oh, they were just flirting with each other and their wedding night is tonight.
Yeah. The reason that everyone's like, hey, Mr. Incredible, you should go get ready is because he's supposed to be at his wedding.
Married. Yeah. But it's so good that because it's like this twist, you know, this reversal, but it doesn't, like, cheapen the interaction from before.
Yeah, no.
You know, like, you can still watch it with that information and be like, this reads and makes sense and I still like this scene, you know?
Exactly.
Which is hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I don't know. And, okay, so I just want to make a note that, because I noticed the fact that when he's chasing down the cops at the beginning, one of the streets was called Adeline Street.
Yeah.
And then you noticed that independently and texted a picture of it to me, which is weird because it has literally never crossed my mind in all the, like, 17 years of me watching this movie. And yet somehow both of us today were like, oh, hell yeah, it says Adeline right there. Like,
I don't know. I was just like, writing something down and I looked up at the screen and I, like, looked up right as the scene was changing. I was like, wait, was my name just on screen? And so I literally, like, went back and I was like, oh, hell yeah, my name's on screen.
I just think that's so...
At first, I thought it was like a Disney Plus thing where they would put your name there, like, for everybody.
That would rip. I'd be so into that.
That's what, because I'm a dumbass, so I was like, oh, but what? No, that can't be a coincidence. That has to be a feature.
They're adding procedurally generated Easter eggs into classic Pixar movies.
That would be dope. I would be down for that.
That'd be kind of fun. That's a good idea.
It's just you're one of the background characters somehow.
Right. Okay, so here's, I think, part of the reason this movie means so much to me is that this movie, I think, is wholly and completely unique in the modern era, in the sense that there is absolutely no reason that this pitch, this story, this script would be produced as anything other than like a regular, like, adult film, you know? Not an adult film. Like, just... I'm saying this pitch, this script, this story, there's absolutely no reason that it wouldn't just be like a live action movie for like general audiences, you know?
Yeah.
No part of this screams this should be a PG animated movie marketed for children, you know? It's like a really serious and really mature story about so many things, and it never ever feels like it's looking down on or pandering to its audience of children, presumably. And I think that is just spectacular. I think this movie is really and truly like one of the first things that made me like appreciate and think about storytelling outside of the really narrow slice of storytelling you're given when you're 6 years old, you know?
Yeah, exactly. It's we always talk about series of unfortunate events and Tim Burton in this light, where it's like it's the first time that you as a kid like kind of see media that like not that isn't meant for you, but that's like not pandering.
Not explicitly tailored to you.
Yeah, not explicitly like a children's story. It's just a story that children can read or interact with. So I think this movie is very much that with superheroes and with animation and stuff like that, where it's like this isn't like a Batman and Spider-Man pop-up book. This is a story about superheroes,
right.
And it's cool and good, and it's not just for little kids, you know?
Do you remember the Hulk picture book we used to have?
I do not.
I think it was a pop-up book. I'm trying to remember it because I'm trying to figure out I remember it had to do with there was a kid who was playing in a sandbox.
Uh-huh.
And he got bullied by some other kids. And then the kid was like, "Oh, Bruce Banner, I'm getting bullied. Can you help me?" And I don't remember how it ended, and I'm trying to figure out how it could have ended besides the Hulk tearing those bullies to shreds.
I don't think this book existed, because I have no memory of it.
It was something from when I was really little, because I remember that was what inspired me to dress up as the Hulk that one year for Halloween when I was like 4 or 5.
Yeah, which means I was probably like 1 or 2.
Yeah, you were like not a conscious person
Not a
yet.
human person yet, yeah.
I'm looking up Hulk pop-up book.
Okay.
I don't know. But I remember it. I found it. Hold on.
Oh, yeah.
Wait just a minute. Oh, maybe not. Maybe it's just the same vibe.
Anyway.
No, yeah, this is it. This is totally it. It's on eBay. I could buy it for $12.
That's a lot of dollars.
I'm just going to send a picture. You probably still won't remember it, but this is it. And yeah, the kid was in the sandbox. Are there any pictures of the inside? I want to see. I want to see what he does. Because, like,
okay.
How does the Hulk resolve that conflict without just, like, crushing some skulls?
He politely tells them to go eat sand, and they do, because it's the Hulk.
The Hulk.
But what I think is so effective about the beginning of this movie, not only that it's so action-packed and fast-paced and gives you so much information so effectively, but because it then is immediately paralleled by the next sequence, which is just Robert Parr just going through his, like, regular normal life and how much he hates it, and then Helen just, like, washing the baby in the sink and picking the kids up from school. Like, it shows you a regular day as a superhero and then a regular day as a person, and just how drastically different they are, and they just, like, totally highlight and parallel each other, and it's so effective.
Right. And that is the thing. I think that's the other point that keeps this from being a functionally Randian libertarian movie, right? Mm-hmm. Which is that, like, the thing that they're trying to rise to do in their exceptionalism is to defend people and help people and lift people up, you know?
Yeah.
Which is to say, to make everybody else's lives better.
Yeah.
Which, you know, could also just be a trickle-down thing to say. But I think it's important to note that the thing that they're trying to do is help people in a really direct way.
Yeah.
And it's not even necessarily just by keeping them from getting beat up. When he's at the insurance company, he's doing everything he can to help people who are in mundane, tragic circumstances.
Yeah,
you know?
He cares about helping people no matter what form that takes. He just really likes being a superhero also.
Right. And And I think the scene where he's talking to Wallace Shawn in the office is fucking the best scene in any movie that ever
looking at just the way that the office is laid out in that scene, just, oh my gosh, because there's, like, behind his desk are, like, the 3 identical clocks, all in the same time zone, and then to the right, there's, like, a bar graph that's just, like, stagnant, and, like, the ups and downs, and then he's got all of his pencils lined up, and even, like, that little letter of him getting fired is, like, lined up perfectly. Like, it's just, like, it's so good of showing off, like, the energy of that room and everything around it. Like, it's so good.
And it's one of those weird things that, like, I watched this ever since I was, you know, I guess since it came out in 2003, so since I was 5 years old. I think I saw it in theaters. But, like, there's so much about it that I didn't understand as a kid, you know?
Like, that whole scene... That whole scene, when I was little, I just read it as, oh, this guy's mean, and Robert wants to help that guy, and that guy won't let him. But, like, now that I'm, like, an adult and know how the world works, I'm like, oh, he's getting in here, he's gonna get fired. And also, this is going on. And also, the reason why he doesn't want him to help other people is because it makes them more money if he doesn't help people. And it's just like, ooh, the layers.
Yeah. But it's, like, not even just that, it's, like, just on a logistical level. Like... The scene where he's talking to the old lady, as a kid, I would always be like, oh, this is kind of the boring part. It's just, like, you're doing something. Yeah. But now that's, like, one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
Yeah.
And, like, I remember I never quite grasped the whole idea of, like, the guy jumping out of the building and him saving him and then him suing him for saving him.
Yeah.
Which is an insane plot device that I think is so creative and cool.
Oh, yeah.
But as a kid, it wasn't even, like, it freaked me out or anything. I just didn't, like...
really understand.
Yeah, I was like, people like committing suicide was not like an idea that I had in my world yet, so I was just like, I don't really...
Back when I was young.
When I thought it was just that he like fell and then he saved him, but he was like, oh, you broke my arm or whatever, and he was just doing like a petty lawsuit. And that's kind of how I read it as a kid, but now I'm like, oh, like, this is more intense and more complicated than just that, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, and it's just one of those things that's like, as I get older and as I don't know, not as I get older, as I turned 11 and figured out how to watch movies.
Yeah, there's definitely like a limit that you reach of getting older.
Right.
You'll be 85 and you'll be like, oh my god!
Now I know why...
Bon Voyage is kind of racist.
Right. But, like, just that it continues to hold up, you know? As a kid, I liked it just because it was superheroes and because I could, you know, they could punch people sometimes and it was big and fun and exciting, and I thought that Jack was funny.
And he was.
But, like, he was funny. But, like, now that I, like, as I understand it and as I, like, fully am able to engage with it on its own terms, you know, there's never been any disappointment or any diminishing returns. It's, like, completely and wholly holds up, you know?
I mean, on a whole nother level, I praise this movie for being a superhero movie that doesn't have, like, iconography that we already recognize in it. Like, they're inventing a whole superhero world with its own rules, and they do it in such an effective and compelling way. Like, whenever I see a superhero that, like, isn't Spider-Man or Batman or something, there's a danger of it feeling just like a generic superhero, you know? Like, it's like, oh, it's like, I almost said Superman, but that's the real superhero. It's like, it's a mighty guy. Like, there's a danger of just feeling generic and having no substance behind it.
Right.
But they just, like, so effectively create these characters that doesn't happen even a little bit. I don't feel like, oh, this is just a Superman ripoff. I feel like, oh, this is Mr. Incredible. He's totally his own thing, even if he has similar powers to some other superhero.
Right. Yeah, no, totally. Let me look back at my notes for a second. I did a Google search for The Hulk to the Rescue picture book. I was trying to find some pictures of the inside of it, but I can't find them. It's making me really upset.
You do. Every time I make a really good point, you're like staring at the wall or Googling which order the Pixar movies come in or doing something else.
It's okay, because it's on the record and it's saved for eternity. You don't need me to listen to it. People will listen to it for generations.
Yeah, cool. And I'm like, great. I just said something really insightful, but I guess I'll just sit here now.
I just want to know what the Hulk does to those kids in the sandbox.
He probably actually just tells them not to bully him, because it's a children's book, so the Hulk just talks to people.
But he's gotta, maybe he breaks a big rock or something.
Probably.
He probably smashes a building.
Maybe he punches their dad. I don't know.
My dad could beat up your dad, and my dad's the Hulk.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? You don't fucking care is the thing, because you're just looking up this goddamn pop-up book, Jackson!
I want to see so bad. Sorry, okay, I'm closing it.
Podcast.
I'm closing the Google search. I'm closing it. It's
okay, God.
I think it's interesting that this was a time, especially when the whole idea of, like, sort of deconstructing the superhero genre and making it feel sort of realistic, quote unquote, or, like, you know, bringing it into a certain kind of reality, you know?
Yeah.
Was just really big in the public consciousness.
Oh, yeah.
Civil War was a couple of years after this, the comic book.
Yes.
And just before this, Brian Michael Bendis and Steve Oeming's comic book called Powers was doing a lot of the same things that The Incredibles was doing. I might have to look up the timeline on that. I don't remember if it came out before or after Incredibles. But, like, it's just one of those things that's interesting that, like, it's slow, that, like, this, like, particular deconstruction of superhero storytelling suddenly sort of became a part of the zeitgeist, like, at this really specific time, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Like, there was stuff before that was engaging in a similar kind of way, like Watchmen, you know?
Yeah.
But, like, it's still, that was more in, like, a really gritty, like, powerful, like, dreary and dark kind of way, but this is more in the, like, still fantastical, but they just have to deal with everyday problems kind of way, you know?
Yeah. I would argue that maybe Watchmen is maybe a little bit unrealistic in how gritty and sad and rapey and weird it is. Like, it's...
You haven't read Watchmen, Adeline.
I watched
also,
the
you just
movie.
You also called it Watchman, which makes me think that you think it's about one guy named Watchman.
No, that's just because I'm bad at talking, but I've watched the film and I detest the film.
Do you have anything else to say?
I'm looking at my notes, you gremlin. You spent 20 minutes Googling the Hulk pop-up book. Let me take a second to look at my notes, senor.
I won't. To be frank, I've had a very, very busy few days. And I did not ever end up actually finishing the film this time. But it's fine because I've seen it 800 million times and I know it like the back of my hand.
Yeah, whatever.
I think Craig T. Nelson is, like, absolutely one of the best, like, voice performances ever. I think he's doing so much in this movie that's so cool, and he feels so quintessentially... I don't even know how to describe it. Just quintessentially realistic, I guess.
Yeah.
His voice performance is, like, big and expressive without ever feeling like it's over the top or cartoony or, like, not blending into this world they've created, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I just think I'm proud to have graduated from the same high school as him.
So speaking of which, I'm gonna go see the LC production of Shrek today, so I'll tell you if that's really good or really bad. I hope it's good. I fucking love Shrek the musical.
I don't want to talk about our local high school's theater productions on our podcast.
Yeah, I know. It's gonna happen though.
Okay. We can talk about Shrek the musical.
I love Shrek the musical. Okay, can we talk about how society has screwed over Shrek and I'm upset about it?
I feel like Shrek screwed over society more than society screwed over Shrek.
Shrek is so fucking good. I'll kill you.
Shrek is like the... It's just like the father of every trope of bad animation that is the worst.
But I don't know why, though, because it itself is so good, and I don't know why all terrible tropes have spawned from it, because, like, Shrek is, like, genuinely a masterpiece of, like, great storytelling, and, like, the animation is fantastic. Like, looking at the animation of the time around Shrek, I'd have no fucking idea how they animated Shrek and had it look so good. Like, it's genuinely a heartwarming story that I think is really provocative and like really deep, and I really enjoy the characters and the character development. But because everyone on the planet made a meme out of it, just because it's one of those memes that spawned from the fact that we'd all seen the movie, then they just meme the hell out of it, and it's a joke now. So when I say Shrek the Musical is my favorite musical, they're like, yeah, whatever, lol. And I'm like, no, it's genuinely really good.
I'm really fascinated by what becomes a meme when, you know?
Yeah, like
right
Ice
now,
Age
I feel
has
like
become
we're
a meme.
in this... Yeah, exactly. Like, Ice Age is one that's just come up lately. But the one I'm especially confused by... Because, you know, in a certain way, it's like there's a certain, like, bank of media that everybody of a certain age sort of unanimously has this galvanizing experience of having seen as a little kid, you know?
Yeah.
And part of that is, like, the powerful sense memory that accompanies that makes the memes that much more powerful.
Yeah. Everyone is being so mean to the baby from Ice Age. And
yeah, that's the joke.
It gets me so steamy. I like that baby.
Why?
I think she's cute.
No, the baby's the worst, Adeline.
No, I like the baby.
You haven't seen Ice
She's
Age in
cute.
long enough.
She's got a necklace and she eats a watermelon. And her dad tries to kill Manny.
Right. But we sort of rotate through. You know, every kids movie from 1995 to 2002 gets its moment in the sun. But I'm fascinated by the fact that Revenge of the Sith has become the, like, meme hub of the last few months, right? Mm-hmm. Because we've had this, like, renaissance of Revenge of the Sith content for reasons that I don't fully understand. Because the prequels have been the butt of jokes and have been a galvanizing film that is notoriously bad for years and years and years and years. And why is it that only now has the eye of meme Sauron only, like, swiveled around to it, you know?
Well, I'll tell you why. It's several things. First of all, it's the new trilogy, so Star Wars is in the public eye more than ever. And second of all,
but I mean, like, in the last few months.
It's because of Clone Wars, and because everyone's excited about the new Clone Wars. And that one gave people such a different perspective of that film, and gave them, like, genuine good content about that film. So now when they go back and watch that film and it's shit garbage, they still can take away the good stuff. So all the memes are Obi-Wan being great and Anakin being a crybaby, because people like those characters because of other media, and they're going back to this media and being like, man, Anakin is the creepiest dude alive. Holy shit. He describes being around Padme as being intoxicated, and I just want to die.
Right. I don't know. I don't know if I agree with you, because, like I said, it's happened, like, really recently. Like, in the last, like 4 months.
Hello there, General Kenobi.
Yeah, and the things you're describing, I think there's a valid point to what you're saying, but they're not new. Those things have also been around for years. We've been doing this new Star Wars thing for 5 years, and Clone Wars started in, like, 2012.
Well, you know? I think it's also because Gen Z has reached the age where they are the ones creating content now. So everyone else has already made their Star Wars jokes, but now Gen Z has TikTok and is making their own memes. And these are the memes that they choose to make. Making Obi-Wan say hello there and talking about the high ground and how fucking creepy Anakin is.
Right. Can I just say that we talk about Star Wars so much on this podcast?
Yes.
And I'm so excited to actually talk about Star Wars on the podcast.
Okay, you know, the second we watch a Star Wars movie, we're going to start talking about something else.
I don't know. We'll see. I've decided that when we start doing Star Wars movies, I want to go deep on, like, ancillary content, like comic books and TV shows.
All the shitty lore that nobody cares about.
Yeah, exactly. I want to, like, really get into it. I've been reading a lot of Star Wars comic books lately.
Yeah.
And I've been really impressed by all of them. I feel like a lot of people don't like the Star Wars Rebels show as much as they like Clone Wars.
Yeah.
But there's a comic book that was coming out right when Marvel first started, doing Star Wars comic books, called Kanan, the Last Padawan, that I'm not all the way through yet. It's only 12 issues, but I'm like 4 or 5 in, and it rips. And it's about at least one of the protagonists. I think the show's more like an ensemble. I haven't watched it yet. But it's about one of the protagonists from that show, and it's just the story of this, like, ambiguously aged, I don't know, young kid. I was gonna say like 16-year-old, but it's kind of unclear.
Yeah.
But like this kid who's a Padawan who's like fighting in the Clone Wars with this Jedi master, and then like Order 66 kicks in, and like suddenly everybody around him like is gunned down and killed, and he's like this 14-year-old who just can't figure it out, and he's just running and hiding from stormtroopers. And like living as this weird fugitive in the galaxy. And it's so cool. And it's all about like about how like at the very beginning he's like, oh, I'm like, you know, you're not supposed to say it, but I'm like really into this whole Clone Wars thing. Like I feel like this is my place, you know, I'm good at fighting and I have like friends in this and everything's going really well and it feels like we're winning and like I feel this. I don't know what I'm going to do once the Clone Wars are over. And then fucking everybody around him gets fucking killed by his friends. And he's like, oh, no. I shouldn't have said those things.
What about the fun part of war? Go back to that.
Yeah. But it's like, I don't know. It's so good. And I'm so excited to like have a direction that I should need to go to like experience all the weird ancillary Star Wars
I thought this was going to be more like Monuments Men and less like that movie that just won where that kid gets exploded. 1947?
1917.
1917.
1917. It's about World War I. Adeline.
Oh, fuck. I haven't seen the film. I don't care.
Okay. But anyway, The Incredibles.
It's incredible.
Did you ever pick up on the fact that the island he goes to is called Nomanisan Island? As in, no man is an island.
Oh my god.
I just picked up on that for the first time this time.
That fucking sucks, Doc. There's no bueno.
But it's thematically cool. Because Bob wants to be independent and do everything by himself. Yeah. But he can't. He needs his family because no man is an island.
Yeah. Okay. I really like that scene. First of all, I like this movie, like, transitions, like, through its storyline, like, really, really smoothly. Where we see Mirage, like, drop off the package, and we see her, like, following them in her car, and then we see her and all that stuff. Like, it's just very smoothly transitions into what we're doing. I do like that she just mails him an iPad, though. That's my favorite part.
Right, yeah.
And I know it's the 60s or whatever, but it's still funny to me.
Right.
I love all the characters in this movie so much. Like, I love Helen's storyline throughout the whole thing, where she kind of realizes that her husband is lying to her, and she has to, like, figure out about what. Where she, like, figures out that her husband is lying to her, and she has to, like, figure out, like, what about. And it's just, I don't know, just, like, her transformation and, like, her, like, because she's just, like, we see her going from being this amazing superhero to kind of being a housewife. Not that there's anything wrong with being a housewife, but it's just, like, that's just the role that she's kind of stuck in, and she enjoys it, but that's just what she's doing now. But then it's just, like, also, she knows how to fly a plane, like, crazy. Right. And it's like, oh, okay. And then she goes on this, like, mission by herself and kicks ass, and it's, like, I don't know, it's just, like, so cool to see, like, such a multifaceted female character. Like, she's just, like, she just inhabits so many different roles, and I think it's just super cool.
And yeah, I don't know, it also just speaks to this movie and how it introduces you to things, you know? They don't feel like they need to be like, oh, Helen, when she was younger, she went on this specific adventure where she had to learn how to fly a plane and she made this contact. It's just like, no, she knows how to fly a plane. You know that because you see her flying a plane.
Yeah, exactly.
If she didn't know how to fly a plane, she wouldn't know how to do that.
She wouldn't be flying a plane if she didn't know how to fly a plane.
So I like to imagine you watching the movie and she starts flying a plane and you're like, what?
When?
But she doesn't know how to fly a plane.
I got that scene in the plane. It's so fucking good. Like,
yeah, it rips.
Because it starts off very comedic with, like, the kids, like, being there. And I love that line that Violet has where she's like, yes, Mom, I'm completely stupid. Like, it's, like, the dialogue in this movie is so realistic of how a family communicates. Like, there's not a moment where Violet and Dash look at each other and Violet's like, what are we doing, bro? And he's like, I don't know, sis. Like, you know, there's none of that bullshit that happens sometimes.
Yeah. Well, no, like, they're completely and totally always at odds with each other.
Yeah.
Like, unless they are with one of their parents.
Yeah.
Like, the only times that they, like, get along is when their parents are watching them, you know? Like, and it's just, like, I don't know, because, like, you and I, we talk about it a lot. We were not friends growing up.
Yeah.
Like, we tolerated each other. But, like, it just speaks that, like, I don't know, I feel like there's an inherent truth that just, like, siblings before they turn, like, 15 just don't.
Yeah.
They don't
we
know how to
often
communicate
talk about
with each
how
other.
when you're a freshman in high school, you are not a person yet, but you act as if you are a person, and therein lies the problem with freshmen. But that's also true with, like, sibling groups. Like, you're not friends until you become a person, and that takes a little bit sometimes.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I want to talk about Syndrome's whole plan for a minute.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing I think that trips me up the most about the, like, theming of this movie.
Yeah.
Like, I'm all for him, like, holding this grudge and tracking down supers and building this machine just because he has this chip on his shoulder about how he was treated before and he wants to be a superhero himself, so he's going to make it happen for himself through sheer force of will. Mm-hmm. If you ask me, I think, like, in a way, that's, like, plenty, you know?
Yeah.
But the whole bit where he's like, I'm going to take... It's just this extra little bit that they add where he's like, I'm going to take all this stuff and sell it off for a profit and make everybody in the world a superhero, making superheroes kind of irrelevant anymore. That feels a little out of sync with the rest of the movie.
Well, I honestly think that's just thrown in there to piss off Mr. Incredible. Because when he's going over his plan, he's like, I made this huge robot, I tested it on all of your friends who are dead now. Like, And, like, what I'm going to do is only I can control it, so I am going to be the only superhero, and I'm going to be the best superhero ever, I'm going to be a million times better than you were. Oh, and when I'm old and I don't give a fuck anymore, I'm just going to make everybody a fucking superhero, because fuck you're not special, Mr. Incredible. Like, that's what I kind of take it as. Like, I don't know, because that's, like, his plan, like, way, way down the line, so much so that I don't think it's really even a plan. I think he's just, like, rubbing Mr. Incredible's nose in it, you know?
No, that's fair enough. But I guess that just speaks to, like, the fact that one of the biggest lines from The Incredibles that people, like, know across the world is when he says, because when everyone's special, nobody will be.
Yeah.
And it's, like, this really powerful piece of writing that resonates so strongly with audiences, but it weirdly doesn't really have that much to do with the movie, you know? I don't know. It's an interesting... Yeah, I mean, I like your take on it, that it's just about his relationship with Mr. Incredible.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter, and I guess I was thinking that, like, that was part of his whole plan, but it's more like him just trying to destroy everything that Mr. Incredible values about himself.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
And rubbing his face in the fact that he's so successful at becoming a superhero without powers, like you said, I couldn't be. I could even give it away to everybody else. I could make everybody else who doesn't have superpowers a superhero.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
I have never thought about it that way.
Well,
and
yeah,
like
and then the whole point and that goes back to the line that he says too, because then you wouldn't be special anymore, Mr. Incredible, because everyone else would have the same powers that you're so proud of. And God, I love that, like, the parts of this movie that make me cry. It's always that part where there's missiles at the plane and Helen, like, yells, like, there's children on board, and there's just, like, this exchange between, like, Mirage and Mr. Incredible, and I'm like, fuck, dude, it gets me every time.
That is one of those things that I think... I've said before, I've used the phrase masterclass, like, before in this, but, like, genuinely, I think that is some of the most effective and viscerally, like, affecting storytelling in any movie ever, you know? Mm-hmm. And, like, every part of it is so succinct and so clear and so economical, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, that whole scene is just so good, because you start off, you have Helen on the plane, she's a little bit freaked out because she's trying to communicate with these people, and they're not communicating with her, and she's freaked out about it, and then we figure out that the kids snuck onto the plane, and it's kind of a joke that they snuck onto the plane, like, they have a babysitter, and that's fine. But then you get into, like, the reality of them being superheroes and that there are missiles coming for the plane. And then the fact that the children are there is suddenly terrifying. And it's just, it's so good how they do it and how they stretch out that scene so that you can appreciate, like, every step that it took to get to this horrible realization.
Right.
I mean, I know it's like whatever, it's like not new information, but like Edna is such a fun character, like, because we're having this whole conversation about superheroes, and to like insert in this like other member of society who's not a civilian and who's not the government, but then also has a relationship with superheroes that's been affected by their absence, is just like so interesting and adds so much to the world. Where it's like, oh,
Totally.
here's this costume designer for superheroes, and now she's just doing regular fashion designing and she hates it, and like just like this fashion
Right.
designer lady who's like so into making superhero outfits that nobody asks her to, and she just makes whole outfits for the whole family that's like bulletproof and can explode at 1,000,000 degrees. Like, it's just
Right.
she's just such a cool character. It just adds in like such a cool element. Like, it just really cements superheroes into the society that like people that aren't the government and aren't just like quote unquote civilians and regular people are still like affected by superheroes and the fact that they're not here anymore. Like, it's just
Right.
super good.
And that's what I kind of want out of, like, you know, follow-ups to this movie, is I want to sort of expand out a little bit more and see what other ancillary jobs there were that were affected by superheroes being outlawed, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know, we'll probably do a podcast episode on Incredibles 2 eventually. I hate it, but...
You do hate it. I think you'll hate it less if you watch it again.
I hated it... I mean, look, I don't hate it.
Yeah, you just gotta... it's... You do this thing and I do this too, where if everybody likes something and you kinda don't like that thing, your rage gets amplified because you feel like you have to shit on it more because everybody else likes it so much.
Right. Well,
I
because
totally get that.
Because the first time I saw it, I was like, fuck yeah, this is going to be the best thing ever. I love The Incredibles so much. It's my favorite movie. I'm all in on this. And then I was like, this is fine. And I was like, you know, it was disappointing, but I was like, I'm not furious about this.
Mm-hmm.
But then I watched it a second time on Netflix, knowing that I didn't like it, and like being able to think more deeply about the things in it that I don't like and why I don't like them, and I hate it that much more now.
Yeah. I think you just gotta take off your being angry glasses and look at it again, you know?
No, I'm looking at it with the exact same lens I look at any other movie. Because
I don't like this movie.
No.
Prove me wrong, film.
Truly, I think that it is thematically weak, and I think that it has a final act and a big set piece that happens after the conflict of the movie has basically already been resolved. And I just think in terms of structure and in terms of script writing, it's not anywhere close to being as powerful as The Incredibles is.
Oh, yeah.
By like a country mile. And I think it's just a deeply disappointing movie. But those are all like big picture writing galaxy brain criticisms, but it
Because you're so smart and great.
I guess it's a bad choice of words. But,
these are my amazing observations.
Right. My point is, those are all like high concept, big picture criticisms.
No, I get you.
The truth is that it's fine. It works and it dramatically makes sense and it has a lot of great action set pieces in it and it isn't boring. So it's like, it's fine, but it's just like, I don't like it what it is at its core. You know? I don't know.
Yeah.
So the weird, awkward romantic tension between Mirage and Mr. Incredible is, I feel like, the only part of this movie that I truly just think doesn't really work.
Yeah.
Because obviously you're not supposed to think that Bob is literally about to cheat on Helen.
No.
But it's just like playing that up that like Mirage clearly has a big crush on Mr. Incredible. And it's just like, it's cool, and then they have like all these weird exchanges that never really quite amount to anything, unless you count like when Helen sees them and is like, "Oh, you're cheating on me," which is kind of something, but not 100% something. You know?
I know one of there was a deleted scene where like it's really highlighted the fact that Helen is afraid that she's being cheated on. Because, like, it's definitely there in the film, and it's definitely, like, an undercurrent of when she's so worried about where Bob is. But there was just, like, a scene that, like, explicitly said that she was worried that Bob was cheating on her. Right. And so I think that's why their relationship was like that for so long, and then without that scene, it's still definitely there, it's just less effective. And, right. Yeah, I don't know. Mirage's whole character, I think, is weird, because I feel like she definitely has moments of characterization that are really, really powerful, but on the whole, she kind of doesn't do a lot, and she's not really there. Like, just like a mirage. But, like...
Okay, cool.
But, like, she has moments of, like, really good characterization. Like, when she helps them get the rocket, and, like, when she's worried when there's kids on boards, and when she tells... I want to call him BS. What's his name? Syndrome. When she tells Syndrome that he should bet his life next time. And, like, stuff like that. Like, she has these really strong moments of characterization.
Right.
But then overall, I don't think she has a character, and I'm not really sure why that happens.
Right. That was another moment when she says, next time you gamble, bet your own life. That I, for some reason, as a kid, just completely didn't register with me. I was like... For some reason, what I read it as, because what happens is Mr. Incredible picks up Mirage, it's like, I'll fucking kill her, which rules.
Yeah.
And then Buddy is basically just like, oh, whatever, do it, like, calls his bluff, right?
Yeah.
And then afterwards, she's really upset at him for taking that risk with her life, so she says, next time you gamble, risk your own life, not mine, you know? But as a kid, for some reason, the connection between that being a gamble didn't happen. So I was like, oh, he has a gambling addiction. Like, I thought she was just like bringing up something from earlier, you know?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
And I thought she was just like, next time you gamble, you should gamble your life, which is, that's what I thought it was when I was a kid. I don't know why that never quite connected.
Yeah. This is just a really little thing that I have, but the character design is definitely very much the 60s with, like, just very simple shapes, like, conveying, like, human forms and stuff. So it's not supposed to be 100% realistic, but I just really like that when Mr. Incredible, like, gets back into shape, I like that he still, like, looks like a dad. Like, I still like that he's still, like, a big, kind of square-looking guy. Like, he doesn't become, like, he doesn't look the same as he did when he was younger. He just looks muscular again. Like, I don't know. I just like that kind of touch.
Right. I want to make a note about the posters and the marketing for this movie. Because all of them are lame. Okay. There's one good poster, which is the one where they're, like, running and there's a big explosion and you can see, like, Syndrome in the background or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But then every other piece of marketing for The Incredibles is just, like, Mr. Incredible's head. The logo with the heads of the family kind of behind it, and you're like,
yeah, and it's like those weird, like, black outlines of, like, the basic shapes of their head.
Yeah, you're like, this sucks. I want, like, a cool, engaging, fun poster. Have you seen? Go ahead.
Well, I honestly think they just didn't know how to advertise it, because if they were like, oh, big superhero action movie, I think they were probably afraid that people wouldn't bring their kids to it. And then I think if they, like, went in another angle with it, then people would be upset when it's an action movie about superheroes. So I think they were like, what if we just put Mr. Incredible on it?
Right. Have you ever seen, or you have, but have you recently seen the, like, first trailer they released for this movie?
No. I see that little shot of them, like, the footage they released of, like, the hair tests that people thought was crazy, but that's it.
Right. No, that's not what I'm talking about. So the first, like, thing when they, like, announced this movie, the trailer, it's significant because John Barry did the music for it because he was going to do it originally, but then he decided he didn't want to, and so Michael Giacchino stepped in. And it's funny because he, like, wrote a different theme that they use in the trailer that they end up not using. Kind of cool. Anyway, but, like, the tone of that trailer is totally different because it's all just original footage of. And the joke is that he's fat and he's in his room and he goes to put his suit on and he can't get his belt buckle buckled up.
Oh my gosh, I do remember this.
Yeah. Which is weird because that's not really the tone of the movie.
No.
You know? Like, it's never really there is that plot element of, like, Bob gaining weight and then, like, losing it again as he gets back in shape once he starts feeling better. But, like, making fun of him for being fat is, like, not part of the formula of this movie.
Yeah, this isn't Endgame.
Right. But, like, I don't know, I just think it's so fascinating. Like, I wonder what went on that, like, led to that trailer. Like, if it was, like, a totally different crew of people, or, like, who made that and why does it not mesh at all with, like, the final product, you know?
Well, I think it was make a fun short about characters from The Incredibles, and it, like, I don't think it was supposed to be, like, tangentially related, like, really at all. I think it was, like, make a cute story with the characters. And so they did it. So it could have possibly totally been a totally different team. Like, it's not supposed to be like, this leads into the plot of the movie. It's just like, no, make a cute short with the characters from The Incredibles. And they're like, you got it, dude.
Yeah. But yeah, I also just want to say that, like, I like that we talked about it before in terms of it being, like, realistic and you should see your own family in it. But, like, you know, all the characters, like, look like people.
Yeah.
Like, they're stylized, but they have, like, body proportions and body weight that, like, reflects a certain kind of reality, you know? I don't know, I just appreciate that about it.
People make jokes about Helen being really sexy, but, like, she has a mom body. Like, she's got big hips, and she's got, like, she looks like a mom, and she only looks sexy because she's in a superhero costume, and everybody needs to calm down.
What was the name of the...
Everybody needs to stop being so horny on Maine.
Right. What was the name of the critic who wrote that review of Incredibles 2, where he dedicated like 300 words of his review to how hard he was watching Elastigirl?
I don't know. I hate
There
him.
was just a famous review that was going around where the guy was just like spent like a solid chunk in the middle of his review talking about how turned on he is by Elastigirl, and there was a line about like, and when Elastigirl came on screen, the popcorn in my lap went everywhere. Like, wow.
What a creep.
This is cool. This is cool. Good guy.
Don't like him.
Do you want to hear my trivia time for today, Adeline?
Yes, I do.
Did you know that this is the first Pixar movie to be 1 hour and 55 minutes long?
Fuck you. There was one that was 1 hour and 44 minutes.
That's true. Did you know that the Underminer is the first Pixar villain to be voiced by John Ratzenberger?
I hate some of these trivia sometime, cause who thinks that this is trivia? These are just facts. It's God. Did you know that this film is the first Pixar film that starts with an I? And it's like,
you're right. You're correct.
It's also wrong, but like...
No, it's not. Which other one?
But...
Yeah, it's correct.
It's stupid, because I just made it up on the spot.
Did you know that this is the only Pixar film to be released on VHS and to have a human protagonist and to be rated PG?
This is stupid.
Did you know Mr. Incredible says to Mrs. Incredible, "You are my greatest adventure." In Up, Carl's wife Ellie writes in the scrapbook, "Thanks for the adventure, go have a new one." This quote was possibly used in both movies on purpose.
Okay, see, these are like starts for like an academic paper of contrasting and comparing Pixar films, but it's not trivia. This is something that you could argue with like facts, and you could back it up with things from both films. Like, yes, it's probably similar themes, and if you would get me some quotations, I would believe you. But it sure as hell ain't trivia, kid.
But okay, you're focusing on the wrong part of this, which is that they are different quotes, not the same quote, and that they refer to Helen as Mrs. Incredible.
Mrs. Incredible, which she is not called the whole movie.
Has never been called that. Okay, this is the last one. Did you know that Syndrome is easily considered one of the darkest and most evil villains in a film by Pixar, alongside Hopper from A Bug's Life?
Okay, subjective opinions is not trivia, especially when you're like, he could be, but here's another villain that's way darker. It just doesn't help your case at all in any way.
Which is weird because I don't think of Hopper as being that intense of a character.
Like, he's, like, scary, but, like, he doesn't really do anything. He just kind of threatens to hurt people, and he doesn't actually do anything.
And then he gets
remember
hit by
when
a bird.
Ernesto de la Cruz poisoned his best friend?
Right,
Do you remember that? And then when he threw a child into a cesspool? Do you remember that?
What are some other good Pixar villains?
Remember the old man from Up who sicks a pack of dogs on a little boy?
That's right. Who's the bad guy in...
Remember Brave, when it's a giant nightmare demon bear that tries to murder her?
So, Adeline, do you have any final thoughts on The Incredibles? And any final thoughts on No Nerds Allowed Phase 1?
No Nerds Allowed. Garbage. New Nerds Allowed 2. Better this time. Good.
More better.
More better. Less... Dumb
bad.
stuff, more good. Less
Yes.
bad, more good. No, but
Okay.
The Incredibles.
So,
Like, it's genuinely a film that I think has, like, lived up to, like, the nostalgia glasses that I've always had for it. Like,
Right.
it's genuinely a beautiful piece of storytelling that, like, makes me cry the way that Pixar movies does, but then it's also just really, really, like, thought-provoking and also fun and also hilarious. And, like, I'm attached to all the characters, but, like, for good reasons, because they are well-developed and really well-constructed characters.
right. So, Adeline, do you want to hear a 1-star review of The Incredibles?
I don't know if I do, because I really like this movie.
This person on Letterboxd.com gives it 1 star, and they say, "So I was rewatching this movie today, and it really got me thinking, why didn't Syndrome just make his robot out of diamond so it would be indestructible?"
This kid's been playing too much Minecraft.
1 star.
1 star. Did not like it.
Anyway, my name is Jackson McMurray,
My name is Adeline McMurray.
and this is No Nerds Allowed.
There are no nerds allowed. But, like, why didn't he just make it out of... Like, of all your criticisms of Syndrome's plan, why didn't he make his robot out of diamond?
That's one of those things I've been reading about lately. Is like it's like a big misconception. Like you can totally break diamond. The thing you can't scratch diamond, which is a different thing.
Yeah, they're like, you can only scratch diamond with diamond. And it's like, okay, throws it on the ground, shatters it to a million pieces.
Okay, well it's not fragile.
Well, yeah, but you know what I mean.